Everyone talks about how to accumulate wealth for retirement, but after nearly a decade working with individuals, I've discovered that's completely backwards. The clients who thrive in retirement aren't the ones who saved and squirreled away the most, they're the ones who know what to sell and what to buy once they stop working. Here's exactly what we're covering today and why missing any section could cost you money if you skip it. First, the 5 assets wealthy retirees sell immediately once they're keyed onto it. Then the core 4 investments they buy instead. Let me walk you through 5 assets that wealthy retirees sell immediately and why each one could be costing you. First, high fee financial products. It is not uncommon where I come across individuals that are paying $27,000 in fees in $1 million portfolio, where they think that they're paying their advisor 1%, but when we did a deeper dive, her portfolio is filled with A-share mutual funds with a front-end load and expense ratio of averaging 1.75% for a total all-in cost of nearly 3%. Front-end loads are the scary factor of any A-share mutual fund, where they can cost you up to 5 to 6% of a commission for the privilege of being invested in this type of product. It's a wonder why these things are still around, but I find them very frequently in portfolios. Second, variable annuities with surrender charges. Let me tell you about an example of someone who I was working with, but we'll call them Dave and Susan. When they retired, they had a pension and Social Security that covered all of their living expenses. Their goal was to maximize their retirement accounts for their kids. But a bank advisor convinced them to roll $500,000 into a variable annuity just to be safe, which kicked out a significant commission to that advisor. 4 years later, their account was worth less than what they started with, and they couldn't touch their money without paying a hefty penalty to get out of it. This is called a surrender fee. David thought we were buying safety. Turns out we bought a trap. Wealthy retirees know that if you can't explain what you're investing in within 30 seconds, you probably shouldn't own it. Variable annuities, index universal life insurance policies are at the top of the list of complex products that may very well end up benefiting the seller more than the buyer over time. Not to mention that variable annuities that are not qualified, meaning not a retirement account, they have a shield around the taxes over time, but they don't benefit from the favorable capital gains treatment that non-retirement accounts benefit from. Said another way, you're paying taxes on any gains when you withdraw it or your heirs withdraw it as if it's a paycheck. The third being underperforming rental properties. I'll give you an example. Someone who's in Texas owns a California rental property with $550,000 of equity, generating $15,000 in annual net income. Most of the property has already been depreciated for tax purposes. When we will ask them, if you wanted to generate $15,000 in income from your investments each year, how big would your portfolio investment need to be? At a 4 to 5% withdrawal rate, it would only take between $300,000 and $375,000. That means if she sold the property, invested $550,000 of equity, she may generate more than the $15,000 per year without the headache of managing tenants, repairs, or dealing with out-of-state real estate taxes. Wealthy retirees view real estate as a business decision, not an emotional one. If it doesn't cash flow properly and you can't treat it like a business, they may very well consider selling it. Fourth, oversized primary residences. Let me share you a story of someone as an example. Let's take Lisa. After her husband passed away, she was paying $4,000 monthly between her mortgage taxes and upkeep for a 5-bedroom house that she barely used. Her kids were grown, flown the nest with families on their own. When we ran the numbers, downsizing freed up $800,000 in equity and cut her housing expenses in half. But the real transformation wasn't just financial, it was emotional. Wealthy retirees know that downsizing isn't downgrading, it's right-sizing your life to fit your priorities. Fifth, whole life policies that no longer serve the need for life insurance. An example here could be someone named Jerry, where they've been paying $1,400 a month for 15 years into a whole life policy thinking that this was their legacy plan. But when we look at the details, the internal rate of return might be somewhere around 2% or less. They will end up locking away liquidity, losing flexibility for something that they barely grew. His insurance needs were already covered elsewhere. So, what we can do in that circumstance is redirect that $16,800 annually into tax efficient investment. That's the power of recognizing when an asset no longer serves your goals. As Peter Lynch said, selling your winners and holding your losers is like cutting the flowers and watering the weeds. Wealthy retirees constantly reevaluate and refuse to let old decisions weigh down their future. Now that you understand what wealthy retirees sell, let me show you exactly what they may very well end up buying instead. Core purchase number one, lower cost index funds and or ETFs. Wealthy retirees buy broad market index funds with expense ratios that are well below 0.2%. They specifically buy ETFs for taxable accounts because ETFs don't kick out annual capital gain distributions as much as mutual funds do. This makes them far more tax efficient for investors. As Warren Buffett said, investing is simple, but not easy. It's simple if you stay disciplined, but it's not easy because emotion tempts people to chase performance or constantly tinker with their portfolio. On to core purchase number two, high quality, shorter duration bonds. Many individuals are rate chasers, so instead of chasing yield in what we call junk-like bonds that can default when you need the income most, wealthy retirees let their stocks do their job and stay in their lane of growth and use investment-grade bonds that are higher quality for safety and liquidity as a stable centerboard to their future finances. They don't try to make bonds behave like stocks. They understand that in normal markets, higher prices trigger lower demand. But in asset markets, higher prices often trigger higher demand. They avoid this psychological trap by sticking to their overall household allocation. Core purchase number three, simple fixed annuities when needed. Here's the key. They only buy annuities when there's a gap between their fixed expenses and guaranteed income, and they want an extra source of income. If their pension and Social Security don't cover their baseline bare necessities, they may end up purchasing a simple immediate annuity, plain vanilla, for asset liability matching. But they avoid complex variable products with riders and high fees. They want transparency and simplicity. Core purchase 4, right-sized real estate. If wealthy retirees buy rental properties, they cash flow from day one and treat it like a business, not a hobby. They track every expense, calculate return on equity, and cut losses early if it's not working. Otherwise, they buy real estate investment trusts for real estate exposure with liquidity. They get diversification without the headaches of direct ownership. Let me give you a decision framework that many of the individuals that I speak to use. The simplicity test. If you can't explain your investment in 30 seconds, it probably benefits the company selling it more than you. Next, the fee audit process. If total costs exceed 1% without exceptional value, they sell and simplify. They know what they own, understand it, and know what they're paying for. Next, the liquidity priority. They buy investments they can sell without penalties. Flexibility is key. They don't tie themselves to commitments like timeshares or complex annuities that limit their options. The best retirees don't rely on discipline alone, they rely on systems. Same with businesses. When your system serves your plan rather than your emotions, you make better decisions without having to think about it constantly. It is not a matter of whether or not we over-engineer and we know everything in the world. It's a matter of, are we actually following a time-tested strategic approach over time that we're sticking with? You now understand what took some of the most successful families years to learn. That retirement wealth isn't only about how much you save. It's about what you choose to buy and sell. You are now equipped more with the same decision framework that some of the wealthiest individuals use, and the knowledge that separates those who thrive in retirement from those who are on the hamster wheel and struggling. If you want to see exactly how this buying and selling framework applies to your specific situation, see the link in the description below to find a time on my calendar to explore this further. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video.